All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the weekly online lichess tournament for Sterling Chess Club. Um, as you can see, a slightly better entry field than we had last week. So we've got 5 players, including myself. So maybe we'll get 4 rounds. Fingers crossed. That would be good. And maybe even if somebody else joins, then we can get 5. That would be absolutely tremendous. But yeah, also 2 stronger players as well. So we should be an interesting one. Let's see how it goes. 10 seconds to the start. I hope everything is working correctly because I'm going to need to start concentrating very soon. Right, here we go. So we're playing, I think we played this player in the first round of the event on last Thursday. And let's go with I think I want to play c5 this time, yeah. Let's go with the Sicilian, which you could certainly argue is the best response to e4. And again, we get the closed Sicilian. I think we've seen this opening a couple of times now. The Grand Prix attack, this is called, with f4. And so I'm going to play g6 and bishop g7. All of these moves I think we've already seen in a game on this channel already. And bishop c4. So white puts the bishop on this this diagonal, from which it could potentially be a menace to the black position. But the bishop will also be a target for later central expansion. For example, if I can ever get the move d5, and that will gain a tempo against the bishop on c4. So it makes sense here to play e6 and to put the knight to the e7 square to support that move d5. Notice also that the move e6 restricts the movement of this bishop. And now he plays the move e5, which is interesting. I think it is slightly too early, if I'm not mistaken, to do this. But what is the best way to punish it? There is a clear threat in this position, which is to play the move knight e4, and that would attack the c5 pawn and also threaten knight d6 check when white could get a very quick attack with knight g5 next against the f7 pawn. So, what to do? I think the 2 main candidates here are d6 and d5, which of course may transpose into one another if white decides to take on d6. So in some ways it might be not a particularly big difference, but which one to go with? I feel like d6 makes a little bit more sense because it threatens the e5 pawn. So let's go with that. I can always play d6, play d6, d5 later, whereas I can't move the pawn back to d6. So in some ways, I guess this is a safer option. And now knight e4, I will be able to meet by taking on e5. And that rules out the threat to the g6 pawn. Okay, so takes on d6. I think we're just going to take this back with the queen. I don't see any reason not to. Now, I'm aware that he has moves like knight e4 and knight b5 that attack my queen, but I think that in that specific situation, that's in that position I could have taken on f4, so he's defended that by playing d3. However, I don't want to have that really hanging over my head, so I think knight f6 is quite reasonable here, because that rules out knight e4. And I'm more worried about knight e4 than I am knight b5, because knight e4 would also attack the c5 pawn. I could also preemptively move the queen, but it's not a good idea to move your queen so many times in the opening. So let's go with knight to f6. And on knight b5, I'll probably slide the queen back to the d8 square. Now he could then play a move like bishop e3 when he's actually got quite good control over the d4 square. So I need to watch out for that. But perhaps I can play knight g4 at some point there. We'll see. Castles, I think it's a good idea simply to copy and castle back. Yeah, that looks quite reasonable. So here, I think I should be reasonably happy with how the opening's gone so far. I've got rid of his e-pawn, which can be a big problem. When it was on e5, it was really restricting this dark squared bishop, whereas now the dark squared bishop is very open and certainly having a lot of influence on the game. Maybe he can play something like knight e4 here and play this sort of position. Knight takes e4, d takes e4. Could then consider exchanging queens, but wouldn't be able to control the d file so easily. Although, again, that would make the bishop very strong. He could potentially play e5 at some point, which would be a bit annoying because the only way I could sort of break out against that would be to play f6, which would leave me with a weak pawn on the e6 square. Okay, so queen e1, very typical move in the Grand Prix attack. Eventually, white wants to get some kind of attack going with queen h4 and knight g5. However, for the moment, I don't think that's a super concerning thing. So I should probably just play another improving move. I think a6 is a good place to start. That cuts out knight b5 and prepares to play b5 myself. And eventually, I think I want to put the bishop on b7, and then I will have two very strong bishops. So let's go with a6. It's still a bit of a challenge for me to try and get the sort of tempo right with regards to explanations versus actually making moves and trying to play the games. It is quite difficult. I don't know how some people do it with such clarity and quality of play. So already, we're 2 minutes behind on the clock, which might make it more fun later on. You never know. So he is having a bit of a think here. A standard reaction to a6 with the idea of b5 could be to play a4, but again, that does slightly weaken his queen side. That will mean that the bishop on g7 again becomes an even better placed piece. So, okay, he goes with knight e4 now, but I feel like it's not such a dangerous move at this exact moment. I think I should probably take. I could drop the queen back to e7, but that seems to play into his hands a bit. So, yeah, let's take. And he does take with the pawn. That's probably a good idea. So now, definitely, I think he will be trying to play e5 here, because that will shut down my bishop. In fact, it will play against both of my bishops, because this one will be restricted unless I can get it out by playing something like b5 and bishop b7. I could consider playing e5 myself, but that does make his bishop a bit better. So it's a difficult decision. I could also play something like knight d4 at this moment. The idea of pressuring c2. So yeah, e5. If he takes, I'd be quite happy, I think, because then my pieces would be very open. And if he doesn't take, he has to play something like f5, which is giving up a pawn at the very least. So takes, takes, and takes. I don't think he has any super useful discoveries. It's a bit scary though, for sure. But I do have good pieces there. e5, f5, and takes. Maybe he doesn't take back though. Maybe he plays something else. But otherwise I get e4 and I'm thinking though something like e5, f5, g takes, queen h4 could be quite annoying. With the idea of knight g5. I would have queen d4 there. Okay. I think this feels like the right move, so I'm going to play it. It's definitely a bit of a difficult moment. Not really sure what the right move was there, but this can't be too bad. I definitely think anything that isn't f5 is not really going to worry me here. Maybe he plays some kind of knight move, I don't know, like what if he plays knight g5 here, for example, then I have queen d4, so that's probably out of the question. Yeah, I think I have that against any knight move, so apart from knight d2, but then I can just take on f4. So yeah, I'm quite happy to see that move. c3, I don't think that's massively critical. I think I can quite happily take on f4. And gain that square for my pieces. So yeah, let's do that. I'm gaining the e5 square for, I can play knight e5 later. I think he'll probably play something like either knight g5 or queen h4. That's one thing that c3's done, which I suppose was the point, that now there's no queen d4. Yeah, knight g5. Okay. So now there's a threat to take on f4. So how do we react to that? Well, I could play knight e5 at this point, and then bishop f4, move the queen somewhere. Something like queen e7. That looks quite reasonable. If the bishop goes back here, I'd have something like knight d3. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, knight e5. It's a good square for the knight because it can't be can't be kicked away from there by pawns. So yeah. Now his bishop on c4 has to go somewhere, unless he takes on e5, of course. But I think I can take back with the bishop then. And f7 has sufficient protection. Knight f7. Although does it? Bishop b5. Bishop e5. Knight f7. Rook f7. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll go to my other plan, which is to take the knight on g5 instead. I'm a little bit disappointed that I have to exchange these bishops, but still should have quite a solid position here. Yeah, so we're just going to take this back, of course. Again, I think the e5 square could be quite useful for my queen. But it's also quite well placed on g5 because that restricts his queen from coming forward. Queen f2 is an idea. I think I'll simply play bishop e6 and try and neutralize this one. I thought I had chances of being a little bit better from the opening, but yeah, now I'm probably a bit more on the back foot here. I don't actually think he's threatening to take on f7 because I could then play bishop e6 and I would win material. The question is whether it's whether I have a better move than bishop e6 anyway. And I'm not sure that I do because I need to get this. I need to get this bishop out somehow, and if I play bishop d7, I think it's realistically only just going to be a target there. I could play bishop h3, but that doesn't really do anything. So yeah. I think queen e5 would be the other main candidate, but I'm not sure. I'm not completely convinced I have the time for this. Okay, but I think I'm going to try it because if I can exchange the bishops and also keep this structure, like not have to have the f pawn move to e6, I think I've got better chances of fighting for an advantage. So this queen e5 move might be slightly dubious, but I think it will give me slightly better chances. But what if he now plays bishop d5 though? That's very annoying actually, because it attacks c5 and also stops me from moving out. So, but now, now I think bishop e6, and yeah, it should be all right. So if bishop e6 and queen e6, he has queen c5. I could then take on a2, but that doesn't quite feel right. The queen goes to quite an offside position. So I think I'll take with the pawn anyway. I think, yeah, I think something like rook d1 and with the idea of rook d5 or even bishop d5 would have been a bit more critical there. But yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, should I take? There's probably no reason to, right? If I'll just play rook d8. Need to watch the time now. That's probably better. No need to give him the file. I was thinking about taking and then playing rook f8, but then could have taken and yeah, that would have just petered out, I think. Let's play b5. Not sure g3 is such a fantastic move, but we'll see what he has in mind. Okay, rook takes. And now he goes rook f1. I think I probably have to. I don't think I have to take this, but I will. Now play queen d6 and threaten queen d1. Not sure I'm really better here, but we can certainly try some ideas and see what happens. c4 maybe. So that just blunders queen for nothing. So I'll take it. So that was a really quite interesting game up till that was played. I think it's probably just a draw without that. Yeah, yeah, just in pretty equal position. So yeah, obviously the scripting came into effect. That no, I'm joking. That was I think he just. I think he just had a momentary lapse in concentration, which can happen. Okay, let's see what happens in the next round. Let's play c4 on this occasion. I don't think I've given that a try for maybe not at all on this channel so far. This is called the English opening after Howard Staunton, who popularized it. Well, not really popularized it, but was the first major player I think to really play it. Let's go with knight c3. Knight f6. Okay. So now I'm going to play g3. And this is a very sort of Yeah, it's a very light squared based strategy. What White's doing here, we're trying to trying to control these two squares in particular. As you can see, the knight and the bishop are both aimed at those places. Okay, so what to do now? It's quite tempting to go for knight f3 and g4. Because I guess with e6 he wants to play d5, and then we would get some exchanges in the center. So yeah, let's go with that. Instead he goes d6. I'm not so convinced by this approach because it feels like now he doesn't have a lot of space, and also both of his bishops are somewhat restricted. So hopefully I can take advantage of that. I think the big ways to do that would either be to play d4 or to play e4 at some point, or perhaps both. But for now, let's just castle and get the king to safety. Okay, so d4 takes. That seems like quite a reasonable thing to do, because then later I can try and pressure this pawn, and as long as I prevent him from playing d5, I think I'll have a better position. So let's go with d4. And obviously we take with the knight, not the queen. That would be somewhat riskier. And I'm threatening to play knight c6 here. So he goes with bishop d7 to stop this. But I really feel this is just enticing more pressure by means of knight b5 now. So because this is threatening to take on d6, and it seems quite difficult to meet. So let's see what he's got in mind. Of course, there is the move queen b8, but then I just increase the pressure again with bishop f4. And if I can provoke the move e5, I'm quite happy, because that makes it very difficult to ever play d5. And it leaves these, and in general, it leaves these squares very weak. So yeah. It does give his knight the possibility of coming to d4, but I would have my pawn still on e2. So at some point later in the game, I could play e3 to kick that away. I'm imagining something like queen b8, bishop f4, e5, maybe bishop g5, and then a6 to push this knight back to a3. They wouldn't be able to come back to d4 because that would be covered. So yeah, let's just keep the pressure on. Let's play bishop f4. He does go with e5. I think that was pretty much the only move. d5 was not possible because of the bishop attacking the queen in that situation. So now bishop g5. And on a6 I can think about inserting the move bishop takes f6, because if bishop f6, then d6 would be hanging, and if he takes on b5, I could then take on e7, or perhaps on g7, and then take back on b5. So this seems quite reasonable. Knight a3 also looks okay, looks pretty good, but I think this is more accurate. And yeah, now just play knight a3, I think. And yet more weaknesses have been created in the black position. So now these weak pawns. This is somewhat reminiscent of a Sveshnikov variation, but I think it's quite a bad version for black. The main feature of the position is that the d5 square is very weak and can be accessed by this knight and perhaps eventually this knight if it comes to c2 and e3, which is a very standard maneuver in such positions. The Sveshnikov is a positionally suspect opening, but black is able to rely on dynamic features of the position in order to justify it, and of course it's very playable. So what to do now? Well, obviously I want to play the move knight c2 and get round to e3 and d5 or maybe f5, but I can't do that at the moment, I think, because f knight c2, bishop takes c4. I still have a lot of compensation there, but I don't think it's worth going in for that when I can instead play a more simple move like b3. Although b3, could there be d5? Well, I think then I take, and if he takes an a3, then I can take on c6. So I don't think that's very concerning. Yeah, okay, let's go with that. But maybe that is a good try. To be fair, at least it doesn't sit still. And when the bishop takes an a3, I do have to worry about things like bishop e2 at some point. So yeah, maybe d5, c takes d5, bishop takes a3, c takes d takes c6, and if bishop b2, I think I take on b7 probably, and then I have moves like bishop c6 check, and even if he does gain an exchange, I think I would still have a dominating position there. So I think I'm going to continue now with this maneuver, starting by putting the knight to the c2 square. With his last move, queen c8, I believe he probably wants to play bishop h3 and exchange the light squared bishops. However, I don't think that will really help very much, because the knight will still be able to access the d5 square, and there's nothing really changes because of this. In fact, you could argue that he's losing a more important defender of the light squares. So in we go with knight d5 now, but it's threatening the move knight b6. And I'm also threatening to take on h3 and then play knight c7. So in general, I think this position is just really good for me. It's still very good strategically. There might be some kind of counterplay in the air with b5 at some point, but that seems a fair way off right now. Okay. Okay, h5. So I do have the move knight b6 here, and I don't feel as though there's really much he can do about that, because yeah, it's just forking his queen and rook. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. So yeah, let's do that. Knight b6. I think he's hoping for some kind of h4. H takes g3, f takes g3, bishop takes, and queen h3, and this sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm going to try to not let that happen. And this is a good start because his queen pretty much has to leave this diagonal. Or it doesn't. Okay, but yeah. So now instead of winning an exchange, I'm winning a full rook when I take on a8, and I'm also still threatening knight c7, which will enable me just to bring the knight back to d5. Obviously, it was winning a queen with his when his king was on e8, but yeah, now it's just going to be returning the knight to a very returning the knight from being attacked on the edge of the board to a very nice central square, which is where you want to put knights, obviously. And now that he's castled, there's very little hope of this attack succeeding because there's no rook to support the queen. So yeah, I'm not really sure that he has that many good options left now. Okay, it goes back to c8. That's fine. I'll just come back to d5, I think. I don't see why not. Yeah, let's do that. Takes. Yeah, hopefully this won't be a super interesting period of the game, but we'll see, I guess. Okay, so he's trying to play f4, get some counterplay that way. To me, it looks quite reasonable to play e4 here because that opens up an attack on the h5 pawn, and would enable me to get my queen in towards his king. So yeah, let's do that. f4 at this point, I'll simply take h5. Yeah, this looks pretty good, but okay. Yeah. Okay, h4 instead. I did find a way to lose here. I can take on f5, and if queen takes as h3, which is quite funny. So let's try to avoid that. I think if I start with queen f3, that's maybe a better way to do it. I could also play queen h5 first. Could also take, take and then knight e3. Actually, that looks good. h3, king g1. Wait, yeah, or even h1. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, goes h3. I think actually I'm just going to take this, even though it looks kind of crazy, because on queen f5 I can play queen g4, exchange more things. So this exchanges the queens, and yeah, that's pretty much the end of any feint hopes he might have had in this position. Okay, so we just take the queen then. Yeah, maybe f4. There's many ways, of course. d4 I will take. Or do I go queen g6 first? Queen g6. g6, king h8. Knight e7 first? I'm not sure that's getting there any quicker. Let's just take. Okay, and now I see a mate. Queen h7 and queen e7 is mate regardless of where he goes, so I will premove that, and that's game over. Actually, he can't go to e6. I thought he could go to e6, but no, he only has g8, after which queen e7 is mate. So, yeah. Okay, I think it's quite obvious who I'm going to be playing in the next round, given that we've both got 2 out of 2. Maybe have a quick look. I think that got quite bad for him quite quickly after d6. Yeah. d4 was a good idea to open up the position and exploit this lack of development. In fact, here he could have put up more resistance with knight e5, attacking the c4 pawn. But yeah, it's already quite difficult. Okay. So this will be the toughest game for sure. Knight c3. Let's play knight f6. That's this. Knight c3, rare option, but not a bad one. I suspect the best move is actually d5, but I could be wrong. Knight f6 allows me to transpose into things that I know. So for example, this is you can get this from Alekhein's defense via the move order e4, knight f6, knight c3, d5. And in general, I think black is pretty much okay in this type of position. e5, yeah, that is a move. I think it's actually more dangerous to take and play bishop c4, but yeah, no, well, actually, e5 is probably the best move to be. But I've always found it harder to play against those e takes d5 and bishop c4 lines for some reason. Maybe I just need to know the theory better. So there's an option here to play d4, and then that can result in lots of things being exchanged off, like this. But the best move, I think, is I think a more critical move, anyways, knight d7 and d4. That's also a good move to reinforce the pawn, and now c5. This is the best move for black, and there's a video on my channel about this move, and a resulting trap, but I don't think he's going to fall into that. I think the most dangerous thing here is to play e6 at some point. Maybe he should have played it already, but not 100% sure. Knight e2. Now, I'm a little bit suspicious of that. I don't think that can be the most critical move for sure. What if I just take on d4 now? Otherwise, he might get to play c3 and support his center. But if I play c takes d4, I don't feel like that's well. I don't think that's happening. So let's yeah, let's see what happens. Goes f4. Okay. So now it seems like we're going to get a sort of Steinitz French type of position, and yeah, I think it's okay for me, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting way to play for white. Okay, let's play e6. I don't want to have this e6 move over my head for the whole game. Knight f3, that makes sense. Stopping things like queen h4. Knight c6, that looks obvious. Sometimes obvious isn't always the best, but a lot of the time it is. So yeah, let's do that. I think he's going to take now, I would imagine. Yeah. So at some point I'm going to have to play the move f6, but right now that's a fairly distant possibility because his knight is attacking e6 pawn, and that's definitely not a pawn I want to lose. It feels quite natural here to play bishop c5, but I know that the bishop can get sort of a bit lost in these positions as well. Perhaps I'd like to have that square available to my knight. So maybe I continue with bishop e7 for now. I think that makes some sense. Okay, let's do it. And see where he puts his bishop. If bishop d3, then I think knight c5 is quite a good idea. So hopefully I'll be able to profit from this delayed development of the bishop. Okay, castling seems okay here. Also, knight c5 could be reasonable, but yeah, let's see the basics first. Castle before we start maneuvering anything. I don't think if, for example, bishop d3, knight c5, bishop h7 really works, because I can take, I'm always covering d3, and if knight g5 I take, otherwise it could be quite dangerous. But yeah, after I get this knight to c5, my prospects of playing f6 seem to improve quite dramatically. Always have good games against this player. I mean, they do have a very good record, but that doesn't really reflect what went on in a lot of these games. I think there was one example quite recently where I think I was outplayed in the opening, and then he went for a very speculative sacrifice, but it almost worked out because it can a lot of the time in blitz. Okay, I'm going to play knight c5 quite quickly, which is a bit devious, but because it will make it might make him think I haven't thought of bishop h7, whereas I have. If he takes on c6, I think I will insert knight d3, because otherwise, if I take back and he takes the bishop on c5, then this could be a very realistic. It could have very good chances of working. This. Roughly equal on the clock. I think I managed to, in general, manage the time a bit better on this occasion. But hopefully that's not come at the cost of any of the explanations, whatever their quality is anyway. Yeah, I really... Oh, but can he do a different move order? Could he play bishop h7 and then king h7 and then take on c6. Okay, he doesn't think he can. That's good. Maybe we can look at that later. So now, well, obviously taking on d3 can be an idea, but at the moment that just develops his queen. I don't want to do that without a good reason. And move f6 would be my other main candidate here. However, it is quite dangerous. For example, bishop takes, knight c6 would be playable. And if I took back, then the c5 knight would be hanging. So maybe I do need to take on d3 first. After all of that nonsense. Yeah, so okay, let's do that. Let's take on d3. Takes with the queen. You know, it might have been interesting as well to take with the pawn there, but goes like this. Okay, and yeah, f6. There's an argument as well for bishop d7 first, because it's maybe not such a pleasant structure to have to take back with the pawn on c6, especially if you can play knight d4 again. But he doesn't do that. He plays c3. Okay. I think now bishop d7 is quite useful. That just reinforces the knight, keeps things protected, enables my rook to come to c8. You could also argue it's a slightly cosmetic move, but yeah, I think in rapid sometimes you just have to make moves that seem to improve your position, even if they don't always accomplish that task. As you might find later. Okay. I would like to put this rook on c8, but at the moment there are ideas against this knight. So and then taking on a7. They might not work, but they're definitely a bit annoying to have to keep considering. So maybe I just start with a6 here. Yeah, that seems quite reasonable. There are also ideas now, like maybe I can take on d4 and play bishop b5, although if he takes with the knight, then that's not an idea anyway. He could also take with the queen, so yeah. Maybe he will just take on c6 here, I don't know. Bishop f2, okay, that's interesting. So he just wants to take on f6, and also if I take on e5, he wants to take back with the knight. However, if I then take with the knight and he takes with the rook, f4 would be hanging, but also e6 would be hanging. Okay. Could play f5, but then I don't have any real dynamic play. And I'm worried he would then slowly build up. If I take on d4, see now if I take on d4 and he takes with the queen, I can play bishop b5, and that does actually do something. However, is it really worth it? If he takes with the knight, yeah, I don't know. Might be going the wrong way for me, this one. Okay, maybe I just play a slow move then, and just add further protection to this pawn, and await developments. It's always tempting to do something, but you do have to pick your moments, especially in these French style positions. Bishop f2, I think, was a good move actually. But okay, we're both going to be quite low on time, so anything could still happen. To be fair, I really don't think queen c8 can be the right move. It just it makes my position quite uncoordinated. But okay, I've played it now. Okay, he does take. How do we take back? I think rook takes bishop h4 might be a bit annoying. So it probably has to be with the bishop. Now he goes knight e5. However, I don't think this is so well timed, because he will have to take back with a pawn. Okay, I should probably take like this, right? Yeah, that makes sense. He does take with the pawn, and yeah, bishop e7. Don't think I really have much option here. Many options, rather. My argument here is simply that it will be quite difficult to attack the f pawn, and also I'm envisioning that there'll be exchanges down the f file. However, I'm not completely convinced, for sure. Okay. I would like to play queen c4 here, but it does seem that I have to keep defending this this pawn on e6. Maybe I can play something like bishop c5 and go into an opposite bishop's endgame. I don't know. I don't know if this is a good idea, but it does seem that your knight is very strong on d4. Okay, he does go bishop e3 now. Okay, let me take. I just feel like this is the only way I can get activity for my pieces. Bishop on d7 will be poor, but other than that, it's not so bad. Okay, so now I've got to deal with ideas like bishop h6. So yeah, still definitely a bit worse here, if not very much, like a lot worse. But hopefully you can get out. Yeah, queen e8. I want to play queen g6. Definitely the exchange of some pieces has somewhat eased my the problems associated with the lack of space. Yeah, so now queen g6 definitely. And I think if I can exchange the queens, then yeah, there's no way I should really lose the position. I don't think I can really win it either against good play, but yeah, I'm certainly feeling a lot more optimistic now. Okay, let's claim this open c file. And rook c2. Okay, seems like a reasonable moment to try and improve this bishop. Try and aim at the e4 square. Rook f2 probably. No, he goes rook d2. But now I do have this check on c1, which doesn't do an awful lot, but it does enable me to activate my rook, which is nice. What am I doing here, though? Okay, maybe rook a1. I don't know. b3, yeah. Gotta be careful now because he might be able to play rook c2. So let's play king h7. That was not really a good idea, but I felt the press of the clock quite keenly there. I think going to f7 was undoubtedly a better idea, but hey, we've done it now, haven't we? Okay, let's play a4. If he goes into c7, I will then play bishop c6, I think. And I will try to argue that well, yeah, I will be winning a pawn here, but he can play things like rook e7 and take on c6, and it's getting a bit dicey again. So does he? I think he probably starts by taking on a4. He doesn't want me to keep this pawn alive. No, I think that was probably the wrong decision, because now I play a3 and I take on a2, and this pawn is perilously close to queening. This pawn is as well, but it's easier for me to play against that with my king and bishop in the general vicinity. Whereas this rook is going to have a very, very hard time getting back towards the a3 pawn. Okay, so let's go a2, although is this more accurate? I think this is more accurate actually, because if bishop c3, I have rook d3 check. Yeah, I think taking on a4 was probably a draw there, but I guess we'll find out at some point when we do the analysis. Okay, takes on c6, but yeah, I can safely take this one. There's no danger of the e-pawn going through. So we just play king f7 now, or a2, e7, queens, and there ought to be some kind of mate there after queens. Let's do that for the excitement, shall we? Right, so now we can witness me trying to find mate in this position. Check, check, and checkmate. There we go. Okay, so I was certainly under the cosh for a long time there, but managed to pull through in the end. Good game. I'm just informing him that I think he shouldn't have let me play a3. So I don't know what the pairing system is going to do now. I know I've got one opponent I haven't played, so I don't know if my opponent from that round's played that player. He has, so he won't get that guy. I will get this one, so I probably shouldn't get the buy. Who hasn't this man played? So he will be paired with this one. Although will it be the case that there are too many buys? Oh, I get the buy. That's nice. Okay. I guess it was possible. Yeah. Okay. So should we try and have a look at this game first? So yeah, and as you can see, this position's just it doesn't extract the greatest advantage for white to play like this, but can make it a bit easier sometimes, I guess. D5, D5, yeah, it's probably what you should do. But yeah, I can transpose into this because I play it with black sometimes. Yeah, knight e2, an interesting move. I haven't really come across this very much. Don't feel like it would be very high on the lichess list. Yeah, it's like 7th or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, 8th. Wow. So yeah, I shouldn't take on d4 actually. I should play knight c6 first. Because now it's now if f4 e6. Okay, similar vibes. But maybe it's a bit committal to take on d4 straight away. It's not like he's really threatening anything. So I could play e6 for example, and get a relatively normal position. Okay. But yeah, this sort of delaying of taking on d4 is interesting, but maybe not the best. And bishop h7 check was not quite working. King takes, knight c6, bc6, bishop c5, and well, yeah, I mean it's still very scary, but Yeah, it's not immediately winning, that's for sure. It was just an interesting position. You get something like this. Wow. Queen c3, queen g6, queen takes c5, and rook f4. Very interesting stuff. And black is a bit better, apparently. Not easy to see all the way to there, of course. F6 was also maybe a little early. If I'd played queen c7 first, I'd have had more pressure on e5. Maybe it's just not a good idea in general. I was also thinking about bishop d7 first. But yeah, then knight g5, this sort of idea becomes quite strong. And we're taking on c6. Interesting. So yeah, just worse here, quite substantially so. But now he let me get back into it, and I actually queen c4 was what I was thinking about, but I didn't really think it did anything. I thought maybe he'd play something like queen g4, and it turns out I can just take on a2, and this isn't so concerning, I think, because I just play rook f7 or something. Yeah, and now I threaten d4, and it's actually quite an annoying pin. Funny. But yeah, this was actually quite a good transition for me to get into this opposite bishop's position. And I could have even kept the queens on and tried to argue that, in fact, his king was a bit less safe. But after what had gone before, this seemed like quite a sensible thing to go for. I played king h7 here, which was apparently one of the better moves, which is quite funny because I really didn't think that was very good. But okay, and yeah, I went for my only real chance to try and win the position, which was to push this a pawn and try to unsettle him, and that's what I managed to do. Here, yeah, definitely should take on a4, and then I was thinking some kind of position like this. And in this position, in fact, his e-pawn is probably a bit more dangerous than my b-pawn. So that's why he's a bit better. However, in the game, obviously, a3, and a3 is the only winning move, so that's good, because it's the only move that allows me to have this past a-pawn. Other moves like taking on b3 or taking on a2 first just end up with this pawn which is a lot further back. Rook b2, technically the most accurate, trying to take on b3. It's quite funny, but yeah, rook a1 was great as well. And yeah, I'm just winning here. So in general, actually, yeah, it was not such a horrible position. It just felt difficult to play, but yeah, I managed to get out of it. Okay, should we have a look at the game from round 1 as well? Okay, we were black in this one. Yeah, so as I said, I didn't think e5 was the most accurate, and d6 was correct. d5 was also fine. And he took, and I took, and yeah, it's just quite a good position for black. Really, this bishop's very good. Queen e1, a6. A6 maybe a little slow, you could argue. If I went b6, I could then meet knight e4 by playing queen c7, which is a bit more convenient than going to e7. And then the bishop will come to b7. Also good. a6 was okay, but not the most decisive. Knight e4 was a good idea. And yeah, I should not have gone for this. I should have played queen c7, and if knight c5, I have knight a5. And you can see why this sort of thing would be better for. Oh no, not with. Knight e4, queen e4, and b5. Wow, yeah, I mean, again, very sharp stuff, but just letting queen takes on a7 happen, or on a8 happen. And queen b6 even with the a7 square, followed by bishop b7. And at the moment, there's it's a queen for 2 rooks, but and a pawn. But yeah, after this, black has a very good bishop pair, which means he's winning, or at least quite a bit better. Okay. I didn't see that, surprisingly. D takes. And yeah, e5, not the greatest. Not my best, unfortunately, but yeah, I really thought f5 was dangerous here, but apparently not so much. And takes, and I thought some kind of queen h4 or knight g5. Oh yeah, that was that. So, but if here, maybe I should have seen something like this. And now I was in trouble. There was a forced win. Oh, there was bishop d6. We both missed that. Wow. And now it's okay again. And yeah, it's just a fairly even position. Queen endgame, but then I'm probably the one who's pushing a little bit here because I have slightly more space on the queen side. But yeah, it's not enough to be a winning advantage. You can ask questions here like queen d2, queen e2, c1, sort of thing. So I think I'm the one pushing probably, but maybe that's just being optimistic. And then unfortunately this rather sad blunder happened, which denied us of a good game. So yeah, definitely in trouble in that one. I didn't even really. I thought it was a bit worse, but yeah, I never considered bishop d6. And the second round game was quite, yeah, it was quite decisive. We had a quick look. Yeah, bishop f6, good, and then it's already plus 1.2, and that's just pure positional advantage. There's no material, of course. So, yeah, and it's also just a lot easier to play for white. I think it's quite obvious where the pieces should go. Yeah, I thought he could consider d5 here, but yeah, that just didn't really work. I was looking at this. Yeah, and even though I do eventually lose an exchange here, like this, it's just an overwhelming advantage because this bishop is basically locking down this rook and, to a slightly lesser extent, this queen. And black will be mated very quickly, most likely. Even 94. Wow. Rook d1. Just a rook for 2 pawns down and a completely winning attack. And yeah, the rest of the game was not hugely interesting. Yeah. Okay, I suppose we can perhaps spectate on a game for a change. Okay, how did this this position come about? c4, e6, b and b6. Wow. Early bishop b4, takes. Okay. Yeah, kind of weird stuff. Don't think don't think White is quite going for the right plan here. So not sure this queenside play actually leads to much. Whereas now Black seems to be menacing on the king side. I don't really like this bishop on b7 though. Doesn't feel like it's very well placed for a queenside attack. And I'm not really sure g5 was warranted at this exact moment. I wonder about perhaps a5 here. In general, it's quite controversial to weaken yourself on the side you're being attacked, but here that just seems to really slow down what White is doing. After b5, there's no more breaks. The knight has the c5 square, and if c5, then I think we can quite comfortably take either on b4 first or perhaps on c5. So yeah, I think that would have been more effective than starting with g5. But maybe Black just doesn't have anything to worry about on the queen side, so you can just go in for this. Now knight d2 played. That would probably be a profitable exchange for White if knight takes and queen takes was played, but another interesting move, rook f7, arguing that White would Black would like to have the f-file open. In the event of knight takes e4, f takes e4. Again, I'm not completely convinced by that, but White seems to be, so that's all that really matters, I suppose. But yeah, how dangerous is this really now? with the light squared bishop for black is not participating at all, and yeah, now c5 is played, and I think the idea is going to be to either play c6, which is an interesting decision because it gains a lot of space, but it then closes the queen side, so it's quite hard to make further progress there. I think typically you would say that white is going to take either on b6 or on d6 and try to use the newly opened c file to infiltrate and begin to pressure white's piece at black's black structure. I'm not so sure about this decision either, but take on c5. It's interesting. Like c1 now, maybe? Okay, rook f c1. Or queen a5 could be a move. Yeah, that was. I don't think that was the best. Okay. Because if the rook moves back now, then d5 would be hanging after black takes on e2. So I think it has to be rook a5. I think, because that keeps defending the d5 pawn. And bishop e2, queen e2. Yep, okay. Now maybe f4 though, it's annoying. Because white couldn't take g2, queen b6 check. This one actually hangs e3 though, so I think it was possible to play rook b5 instead. And that would get the queen off this diagonal. Now it looks like black certainly has the upper hand. And queen b5 is just a bit too discoordinating as well. Queen is not very well placed there. It's not so bad in and of itself, but it blocks the rook in on a5 and prevents it from accomplishing much. That's probably a good move, queen c5, to offer this rook endgame, but yeah, it's a tough situation for white now. Could go back to b5 here, I suppose, but then maybe takes on f3. It's playable. Queen f2, perhaps. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the thing is, if the queens are exchanged, then this rook on a5 actually does look quite good because it's attacking a7. It's also defending d5. So yeah, it could be the case that white has pretty good chances to save that. Certainly in a practical game. Okay, well, we're going to see. I think I would take on g4 here and try and get some pawns off the board. Like fg4, fg4, rook f8, king f8. Okay, this is sneaky, trying to threaten mate. h3. It's a good move. a7 is hanging. Yeah, just take a7. No, ran out of time. I think if he takes an a7, it's probably... I don't know if it's holding, but I would say it's quite... It's got to be quite close, yeah? Because White is going to be so active. I think it's probably close to a draw. Yeah. Yeah. If it takes an a7, it's a draw. It's a draw. Yeah, holding though in a practical game is always difficult. It's a tough one there for black. He played well to bring that position back. It's a tough one there for white, sorry. I thought, yeah, and a5 here was definitely the best move. So that's good. Oh, okay, sorry, I think I'd spent too long analysing that one. We would have gotten to this game. Okay, to play e4. Yeah, maybe knight f3. Let's go to the Rue Lopez this time. I think I played an Italian, maybe in the last one. a6, bishop a4. Of course, it's also possible to take on c6. Knight f6, it's castle this time. Castle. Obviously, all of this has been played many times before. Bishop c5. It's not. I think it's playable, but it's not the most common move. I want to say knight e5 here is something you can do. But also c3. c3. I think that's right, isn't it? c3. Okay. d4. And because of the attack on the c5 pawn, I was threatening both the bishop on the c5 bishop. I was threatening both the bishop and the pawn on e5, which is why black felt compelled to go for this exchange. Knight c3. Now d5 here might be playable. d5, e5, knight e4, and then I can't really take on e4 because after it takes knight g5, the d4 pawn is hanged, so I'm still going to play e5, but I'm not going to take on e4 if he plays that. Which I think he probably should, because, well, it puts a knight on a good square. It's certainly better than any of the other squares available, in my opinion. Okay, so I've got a few ways I can try to increase the pressure here against the knight on e4, which is obviously quite a good piece at this present moment. Play rook e1 and play bishop c2. Not really so worried about him taking on c3 because I will take back and I'll have a strong center. Although the c4 square will be a bit weak, so it'll be double-edged, and that I don't really mind. So I think I'm going to start with rook e1. I think the rook belongs here anyway. So yeah, seems quite sensible to put it there. He does take on c3. Okay, so now we'll get to see which is the more important factor, the slightly weakened squares or the strong pawn chain in the center. I personally quite like playing with these with this sort of triangle, not triangle, triumvirate. I don't know, because I feel like I tend to get good attacking chances, and I could play bishop c2 here and queen d3 to try to begin to actualize those possibilities. And well, for now, let's just play queen d3. Although then maybe you could argue that he would take on f3. Okay, bishop b3 is also quite reasonable, but then there could be knight a5. So okay, let's go bishop c2. This has the side effect that there will be some situations where bishop h7 works as a tactic. It doesn't work now. Bishop h7, king h7, knight g5. The queen could take, and my queen be hanging on d1 as well. Okay, I think I'm going to play rook b1 here to activate this rook. Threaten b7. And if bishop takes c3, I can play queen d3, the threatening mate, and also the bishop. And yeah, so let's go here and win a piece. Another interesting thing about this structure is that sometimes the bishop can come to a3. And yeah, you can sort of unsettle black a little bit. So yeah, we're just going to take the bishop here. Yeah. So he defends the pawn on b7. Now I'm going to play h3. Just want to get rid of this bishop, free my pieces up a little bit. Oh, I actually that was silly. I blundered the pawn on d4. If bishop takes, queen takes. I think then d4 is hanging. So that was yeah. So it just goes to show no position is too good for you to mess it up. But okay, he went back to e6. You didn't see that as well. And I think now I'm going to play bishop g5 and bishop f6, try and get in on these dark squares with perhaps queen e3 and queen h6 to follow. He might take on h3 here. I don't think that helps him too much. Okay, let's go queen e3. Now queen h6, big threat. And queen h6 now, and I think that's just going to be mate. Don't think there's any way he can stop that on the next move. Okay. Just have a quick look at the analysis board. So yeah. She should start with e5, which is quite interesting. I guess because this way if knight e4... okay. I think the difference is now if he goes back, I play d5 first, and the knight will be kicked away more easily. So actually after this, then yeah, I gave him some chances. But this was just it's just a good structure for white. And he fell into my little trap here, which was nice. Okay, yeah, and the rest of the game obviously is not so interesting. But yeah, I would have had to take back with the pawn here, but it's not so bad. Still got the extra piece for my worries. Okay, so 5 out of 5. Obviously, only played 4 games that time, but the bye in the 4th round. So again, there's always things you can improve on, but yeah, that was pretty decent stuff and some fun games. So thank you so much for joining me, and see you next week maybe. Goodbye for now.